Hey, what's up guys, it's Finn with Treehouse Overland. In this video I'm going to be swapping a manual transfer case from an FJ Cruiser into my 2006 Sequoia. The main reason most people do this swap is because their electronic transfer cases fail. With a manual transfer case you don't have any electronics to get water into, or in my case, hit a rock and snap off completely. Another thing I would suggest is to do your research before doing this swap. It's my belief that this swap can only be completed on the 05 through 07 Sequoias, as the 01 through 04 models have a different transfer case entirely. More importantly, they have a different transmission with a different bolt pattern. The 05 through 07 Sequoias use a 5-speed transmission called the A750F. This list is from Wikipedia and it shows all the other Toyota and Lexus models that share this transmission. I would assume you could swap transfer cases between any of these models. The 01 through 04 Sequoias use a 4-speed transmission called the A340F. You could probably swap transfer cases between many of these vehicles, but again, you gotta do your homework. So on the left is the 01 through 04 Sequoia transfer case. On the right is the 05 through 07. And you can see how these three holes, 1, 2, 3, they're not in a perfect straight line, but definitely in a straighter line than these three, 1, 2, 3. Well, there's probably a way to get it done with all the adapters and stuff they have out there nowadays. I haven't looked into it, so I don't know for sure. Before you go buying a transfer case, just do your due diligence. And one last thing I'll mention before we get going on this video is the 01 through 04 owners who say, well, I already have a manual transfer case, don't I? Look, there's a stick shift right here. Yes and no. You have a stick shift to control high range, low range, and neutral, but it's still an electronic system of buttons and an actuator to engage and disengage four-wheel drive and operate the center diff lock. And that actuator is just as prone to failure as the later models are. Thanks for joining me. On to the video. Hey, what's up guys? It's Finn with Treehouse Overland. Today I'm going to be doing an FJ Cruiser transfer case swap on my 06 Sequoia. My main reason for doing it is this. I came down hard on a rock doing the Rubicon Trail and somehow managed to snap my transfer case actuator clean off. And for those that don't know, on these 05 through 07 Sequoias, to replace the actuator, you have to remove the transfer case and crack it in half. I don't want to do it. I don't want to pay to have it done. I don't want to have more electronic failure in the future. I just want an old school transfer case I can operate with a shift knob. Alright, so I started by jacking up the front end of the truck. It'll be nice to have a little bit of extra room to work under there, but the main reason I jacked it up is if it's at a slight incline, the transfer case will pull off easier. I'm trying to use gravity to my advantage here. First things first, the skid row skid plate has got to come off. While I'm down here, I should say that the skid row transfer case skid plate did its job. I did snap my actuator off. In Skid Row's defense, it's not a transfer case actuator skid plate. Explain to me this. How did I snap this off, which is right in this general vicinity, without breaking this, without breaking this? I mean, the thing sits about this high. So how did a rock get up there, do its damage, and then make a quick getaway? I'm not complaining. I'm glad I didn't rip my exhaust off. It just still boggles my mind how that happened. Okay, now it's time to remove the front and rear drive shafts. I'm not going to spend too much time on this step. It's pretty basic. To be quite honest, if you can't get your drive shafts off, you probably shouldn't be attempting a transfer case swap. Okay, so the drive shafts are off. It's time to drain the transfer case fluid, 24s. Alright, at this point, we're going to start unplugging and cutting away all the cables, wires, and vent hoses. Well, I think I'm finally at the point I can remove the main bolt that holds this thing to the transmission and pull it out. We did these three, but there's another one. There. Okay, so the 4 on this side are free. On to the other side. Okay guys, so on the driver's side, I see 1, 2, 3, and then there's one at the top of the case, similar to the other side where you have to go in this way, at the very, very top. Time to remove bolts 6, 7, and 8. Bolt number 6 has the cross member in the way. I can't get anything through here. We got looseness, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and remove 4 and 5. Okay, so now the only one holding it on is bolt number 2 here. I am gonna put one bolt back in a more accessible spot. That way the last bolt I pull will be super accessible. All right, there she is. All these bolts turned out to be the same size, but you don't know that going into a project. You know, this is just always something I've done. All right, so a little comparison here. This is the 05 through 07 Sequoia case, and this is out of a 07 FJ. Pretty similar. This part here looks identical. Even the casting here, same as here. And then up here where you have the rods, you just got cutouts, like they could have milled them if they wanted to. You got the cover plate and the cover plate. The little kid that plays with Legos inside me wants to just take this off and put it up here. Like, why is this the same exact dimensions, I'm guessing? Breather, breather, even this looks the same as that. What I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just gonna replace the speed sensor. This is just like blocked off by a blank piece of metal. Going to clean along the edge so I don't bring any of this dirt into the new case. I know you're all impressed how clean my gear oil is though. So I can't just throw this in right now. I have to make a hole on the floor first. I'm thinking if I swap this top shift plate for this blank plate, I can at least get it in there and then start cutting. Probably make sure it's in neutral. Get it back in before it gets completely dark. Yeah, I'm amazed. That was so freaking easy, but I guess if it's the same transmission, why would it be difficult, right? I'm just going to install this new FJ case using all the same bolts I just removed from the old one. Okay, it's getting too dark to work. I got the transfer case bolted in. Every bolt went in except for number 1, the top. The way that the position switches are mounted up there makes it really difficult to get to that top bolt, so I'll have to figure that out tomorrow. Speed sensor hooked back up. These vent lines are hooked back up. All 8 bolts are tightened. These are position switches. Eventually I'm going to try to wire them into my dash so that it shows when I'm in 4 low. Alright, before we start cutting holes through our floor, let's take a quick minute to go over what's all needed to complete this swap. The first thing obviously is a transfer case from an FJ Cruiser. The one I used was from a 2007. The crucial thing here is to make sure your transfer case came from an FJ with an automatic transmission, as the manual transmission FJs came with full-time 4-wheel drive transfer cases. Since the FJ transfer case is about an inch shorter than the Sequoia one, you're going to need to adjust the drive shafts. I was about to have a new rear drive shaft made before I saw Overlanding World's video and the spacer that they used. I got mine from eBay because the shipping was the cheapest. While it's true you can reuse your front drive shaft if you want to knock the studs out of the transfer case, I wasn't comfortable with my front drive shaft being fully compressed all the time. So I did some research and found out that the 05 through 06 Tundra's front drive shaft is about an inch shorter than the Sequoias and worked perfectly. And then you're going to need the shift boot from the 01 through 04 Sequoia. The easiest way to source that is to steal it from your wife's truck. You're also going to need a rubber shift boot to cover the hole we're about to cut into the floor. Alright guys, getting ready to remove the center console. I decided to take the front seat out just because it's going to be easier for me to film. It's only 4 bolts, so you know, why not? You have more room for tools and to stand up here and all that. I didn't record removing the center console because there's plenty of YouTube videos on that already. I'm just going to start by drilling a pilot hole a little bit driver of the hole that's already on the floor. I'm going to open it up a little bit more with this step bit. See that? that looks to be the rear driver shifter cover bolt. And I'm just gonna draw a small box because I know this is gonna take me a few times to get it right. And you know what, if I start small, I should be able to knock this out. I might have to open this up more in the future, but for now, it's good. All right, I got all the bolts out. Ooh, I gotta vacuum that before any of that slips in there. Okay, so here's the FJ shifter. You look at it from the top, so it goes that way. We need it to go that way. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it right here at the base, shift it this way, and re-weld it. It looks to me like this can separate from this, and I'm gonna actually try to do that now with a big old chisel. It did come off not very pretty. I just needed to shove this up out of the way so that when I weld on this thing it doesn't melt. Plus I have room to weld and room to clamp the ground. So if this can go past this, we're in business. All right. So I removed the shift lever from the base because there's a rubber seal down there that I didn't want to destroy with heat. So we got the right angle now. We're angled this way in the truck. Now we just need to extend it further forward. I'm going to cut it here, right in this flat spot, and I'm going to extend it 3 or 4 inches. What I'm using for the extension, it's an axle out of like a yard cart, almost a 1/2 inch in diameter, and it's solid. It's what I got. It's what I'm going to use. I'm going to measure 3 inches, cut it, and then make my extension. Just like that. Wow. So I got the shifter that I made last night back in, secured by 2 bolts. It's hitting, so just got to do a little bit more trimming, cover up the transfer case. So here it is, 2 high, 4 high, neutral, 4 low. 4 low gets right down into that cutout that I made. I think I got it. It's pretty centered if you look at it from the driver's perspective. 2 high, 4 high, neutral, 4 low. All right, now take it all apart just to put it all back together. I'm going to show you the easiest way I found out to take this apart and rebuild it. So we're going to unclip it. Just going to remove this because I'm going to be using RTV. Okay, I'm going to clean as much gunk out as we can. This seal is absolutely screwed up. I'll find the part number for this seal and put it in the description in case you guys want to get a new one, because I'm going to. But for now, I'm going to try to make it work. Skinny side towards the front of the vehicle, fat side toward the back. And we're going to just take our grease, clean our guy off. Our snap ring, a quick cleaning, cover. Easiest way that I found to do this is to take something with a hole in it, set it down, on top. I don't know if it matters which way the spring orients. I'm gonna put it this way only because if I need to get to it from the truck, there's plenty of room to put pliers down there this way. Okay, then I take a big crescent wrench. This is a 15/16, but I use it for a 24 millimeter. Press down on this bell, give it a little wiggle. And take your ring. You can almost do it by hand at this point. Need to coax a little bit with the screwdriver. And there it is, it's in. Don't forget about your spring, super important. So I have a steel brush on an extension on my impact, and I'm just gonna get this clean. And of course we have this. So this amp isn't going to fit in its original home anymore. I'm going to try to jam it somewhere else. I'm going to start by taking the bracket off of each side. So the amp's jammed up there. This is like a plastic tube. It makes it very hard to position this group of wires in any sort of way, so I'm going to cut this off. Alright, so I went ahead and reinstalled this bracket, and it actually holds down this amplifier pretty good. The only thing I'm worried about is I know that this thing gets hot. I hope it doesn't get so hot that it melts the loom. I will keep an eye on it and be sure to let you guys know though. Alright, so it's been about 24 hours since I applied the gasket and bolted everything down. Now I got to try to get this shifter boot on here. Okay, so not ideal. The ideal thing for me would have been to fill in some of this gap with some of this sheet metal, but I lost the ability to weld at my place. The landlord's not having it, so for now, until I find a garage and can redo this correctly, I just did several layers of Gorilla Tape. All I'm looking for is really just a little bit of sound deadening. It ain't pretty, but there it is. All right, so I got my drive shaft spacer in. The cheapest place I was able to find this thing, you guys, was eBay. So my research paid off. On the top, we got the stock Sequoia front drive shaft. And on the bottom, it's an 05 through 06 Tundra front drive shaft. About 1.5 inches shorter, so it'll work perfectly. It won't be fully compressed all the time, and you'll be able to get it in and out without knocking the studs out. So I'm happy about that. I spent so long researching Tacoma axles, Forerunner axles, LX axles, even earlier model Sequoias. They had a different transfer case, so I thought that might work, but in fact those are longer. So 29.5 inches is what this guy measures out at, by the way. eBay special, $100 shipped. All right, coming in with the 05 through 06 Tundra front drive shaft on there. I'm actually taking this off right now, so I'm not going to bolt it in, but I just wanted to show you guys that it can be done. It works perfectly. All right, guys, we got the FJ transfer case in this old girl. I have to come up with a solution for the front A.D.D. And if you go into your truck, you look under the front diff, it's right here. This is what connects your CV axles to your differential. And when you're driving around in two-wheel drive, it's disconnected. This is also electronically actuated. My goal is to take this from electronically actuated to manually actuated with a cable. So first we got to get this off. We got to go after these, and I think these are 12s. Let's take the breather line off next. And now you can see those last two bolts. There it is. So guys, I just reached up from behind the steering rack and pulled it out that way. I had to go to storage and get my second A.D.D actuator because I destroyed the first one trying to make it 100% manual. Shout out to Mike Usoff, fellow TSOR member, for this great idea. Check him out on YouTube at Dirty Mike's Garage. Alright guys, here I am under the truck. This is the A.D.D actuator that I tried to fit to run manually. I had to put it together and take it apart too many times, and it just got messed up. I had to weld on this in here, and it heated this up so much that it broke, and now it's useless, it's junk. The original plan was to use this puller. Engage, disengage, engage, disengage. That's all tweaked right now, all busted. I'm gonna try this process again, because I think I can get it this time. Front A.D.D is still gonna be controlled electronically for now. I have a second actuator. Here's the wiring harness for it. Here's the pinout. I have a switch that I'm just gonna hook up on the dash. So we're gonna make room for this switch and this guy. And if you have the little change box or whatever, you can get these on eBay. I've seen them. And all I do, go around the whole edge. Snip, snip, snip. Once you get it like that, start snipping. And if you take your time, you can get it nice. This looks like a part number. That looks good enough to test. Perfect. Using Add fuse, top left, so looks like taillights. Pop this sucker in here. Guys, these are so handy. I get them off Amazon. For the price of one at AutoZone, you can get about 10. Same exact things too. So I'm going from the switch. It's a 6-pole switch. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. These are the power. These are to the motor to the front actuator. I got yellow as my power, so I'm gonna hook yellow up to this guy. I'm gonna run the rest of the 4 through the hole. You can barely see it shining there, right there in the middle of the screen. So here's the harness for the A.D.D. All I'm using is the blue with the yellow stripe and red with the black stripe. So those two are the position switches. So if you want to get technical, terminal 2 and terminal 6. I thought for sure it would be the motor that I'd be using, but the motor does not make the motor work. It's this. DL1 and DL2, blue with the yellow and red with black stripe. Everything else I'm bypassing, and to be honest with you, I'm not even using the ground because I've had weird sparky stuff happening. So I'm gonna give this a try and we'll see what happens. The switch does have a ground, so the others I just wrapped up. I taped the end of them and then I heat shrink the end, so in case I need to use it later. All right, there it is. I got it in the truck so I could see what was going on. I got my 6-pole switch down here, then back and forth, baby. Pretty cool. Time to install it. All right, guys, as you can see, I got the truck jacked up. We're gonna go through a series of tests to determine if all this paid off. So let's get in right now. So I know the truck works in 2-wheel drive because I've been driving it in 2-wheel drive for a few weeks now. So let's do this. We got it in neutral. Let's go to 4 low. Now this is with my A.D.D off. Back wheel's going. Driver wheel's going. Passenger wheel is not, because the A.D.D has that passenger wheel disconnected. We're in 3-wheel drive, guys. And I don't know that there's any useful mode for 3-wheel drive. I just want to be able to drive it in 2-wheel drive without the entire front drivetrain sending power to the transfer case. So let's get in, put it back in neutral, and let's activate the A.D.D. Just about like a 1.5 seconds should do it. We're not going to cut the video. We're going to go right back to low gear. We're gonna hop out. And now, as you can see, we got it. Put it back in neutral. 1, 2. Back into drive. Low gear. And we should be disengaged. And we are. Winning. I just love how stock this looks. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Even the pattern on the shift knob matches this inlay in here. It's like it was meant to be. Pretty crazy. Time to put this front seat back in and get this thing put back together, man. Sheesh, it's been a while. But with the rubber shift boot installed, even though it's jank and temporary, I'm not hearing much of the noise from the transmission, so that's a good thing. All right, if you're following along with me and you got to this point, then you probably noticed the flashing lights of death on the dash. You can get them to turn off by simply unplugging the 4-wheel drive ECU, but I wanted to take it one step further and make them operational. All right, so I'm looking at the wiring diagram for the 2006 Sequoia, and I am on the combination meter, which is this here, as evidenced by the speedometer. And we got 3 lights in this model, 3 LEDs when the center diff lock is locked, when it's in 4 low, when it's in 4 high. My 4 low indicator has never worked, so I think I'm going to try to wire 4 high to 4 high, and then maybe 4 low to the center diff lock. You get the bezel out, Phillips head here, Phillips head here, and then pops out. First, you got to remove your radio, and there's plenty of YouTube videos on that. I'm not going to go into that. All right, then you want to locate your green four-wheel drive computer. I already took mine off its bracket. That's the bracket it sits in. Those two tabs fit here and here. Your best bet is to just unbolt it from the top. There's two plugs on the back. One's white, one is black. And then you can remove them. We won't be needing this anymore. I'm getting backwards footage right now, so ignore all those jumpers and all those colorful wires. These are the two plugs that we're going to be working with. Okay, so instead of running new wires, 4 new wires outside down to the transfer case, my old transfer case actuator cable is still down there, and it's got a total of 12 wires running to it. This is it here. I'm going to pick 4 of these because they all go from down there to the transfer case to up here. And it's really hard to get at them to access them, but I think I can. These 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, if I can find them. So first up, red with a light blue stripe, then blue, then black with a white, then black. Red with a light blue, I see it. Black with white stripe, and then black, right there. All right guys, we're under the truck looking forward towards the front of the vehicle, and after much research, I had to scour the FJ forums. I have found that this switch on the passenger side is the 4 high switch. And then on this side, this one is neutral, this goofy looking one, and this one is 4 low. And then of course, this is the old transfer case actuator cable with the 12 pins. And all the colors that you see on that diagram, you see right here. Let's do our left to right. Red with a light blue stripe, right there. Light blue, there. And we move on down to black with a white stripe and plain black. Black with a white stripe right there. Plain black is right next to it. They're almost in order, actually. So these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the ones I'm going to use. And again, I'm doing this so I don't have to run new wiring. The wiring's already here. I was actually stringing out wires, seeing some of the longest wires I had, and then this idea just struck me like a ton of bricks. Like, bro, you got wires literally running from and to exactly where you need. Okay, so I'll use red and blue and light blue for 4 high, and then black and white and black will be for 4 low. Okay, so we're not cutting the speed sensor wire, but we're cutting this blue one behind it. Pull this down a little bit, snip it, push it back up. And it doesn't matter which goes to which. It's either an open circuit or a closed circuit. Probably want to swing this over. Got my shrink wrap up there. Right now I'm just going to twist them. But if this works, I'll come back and solder them correctly. Solid blue, one of these black switch wires, and then red with a light blue stripe to the other one. So now we have our wires tapped into the transfer shift actuator, and then the 2 group of wires that plug into it, black plug and a white plug, and they look like that. I am going to take these clips that I found on Amazon and splice one onto each one of those wires, the smallest size. And I'll come back when that's done because I cannot hold my phone while doing this. Okay, there it is. Now I essentially have 4 outputs right there. 2 of them have to go to ground, and then 2 of them have to go to this one. This one sends signals to the dash. Okay, we're back on the Sequoia map, 4-wheel drive control ECU. We're going to pay attention to these 3. Indicator 1, indicator 2, and indicator 3 we're going to follow. So if we follow 1, it ends up at the 4 high. This means indicator, this little symbol. I am not going to worry about 4 low. I know for a fact that my 4 low indicator does not work. It never has. And I already tested it with direct power and it just doesn't work. So my plan is to have the 4 high indicator on in 4 high, and the center diff lock indicator on in 4 low. That's fine with me. I don't care about the lights. I know when I'm in 4-wheel drive. This is just me trying to dig deeper, learn a little more, and challenge myself. Some of you guys might think it's pretty important or really cool, so I decided to share it with you. Okay, so yellow black for 4 high. I already grabbed it. There it is. Brown and yellow for center diff lock. Brown and yellow, center diff lock. We're tapped in, and we'll be using this ground to complete the circuit. Get him, Boomer. Okay, they're doing tug of war out there. In here, I have 4 wires made, 2 basically jumpers, and then 2 with the male connector on this end and the terminal connector on this end for this ground spot. Okay, I got these pigtails grounded out, orange and yellow. First one we're gonna do is 4 high, so that would have been red with a blue stripe and blue, and the light we're after is the yellow with a black stripe. Okay, our shifter's in 4 high. We're gonna find yellow black on this one. Gonna go to solid blue. We're gonna run a ground to red with a blue stripe. Now let's go ahead and hook 4 low up to the center diff lock indicator. Gotta run purple wire from the brown and yellow. I should have hired my kids to plug these in. There we go. And I don't think it matters which is which, but it does matter that you plug these in all the way. All right, I'm gonna try to film this all in one shot so you guys don't think I'm pulling some shicey stuff. 2-wheel drive, pay close attention to the 4 high indicator up there. 4 high. I'll zoom in a little. 2-wheel drive, 4 high, 2-wheel, 4 high. And then let's try 4 low. And with 4 low, we get our center diff lock, and that's the best I could do. 2-wheel drive, 4 high, 4 low. One more time, 2 high, 4 high, 4 low, 4 high, 2-wheel drive. Got 'em. That's it for now. We got the FJ case installed. This is Finn with Treehouse Overland. As always, I'll let you know how this turns out after a few weeks of driving it, months of driving it, whatever. It wasn't a super easy swap. It wasn't super difficult either. Thank you guys so much. We're at 2,000 subscribers. I really appreciate it. All right, peace.